Hello and welcome to episode 2 of the Endless Ranting podcast. Only, 2 years after episode 1. We are here. We're not going to let a fucking 2-year time skip deter us. I'm Hogdale, your host. I'm very happy to be in front of you talking here. And, man, let's just get into it. We're going to start off here with some NFL, and I'm going to start off with my beloved New England Patriots, who have who recently lost a game in extremely embarrassing fashion. Literally the worst loss in the Belichick era. I believe the final score was 38-3. And the thing about the Patriots is there's so many things I could say just about the Patriots, like of just like how I've hated like what they've been doing these last 5 years. But really, like this last game was just like a summation of everything that I have been saying is wrong with the team. They're not good enough. Point blank, they're just not fucking good enough. We're finally at the point where Bill Belichick's poor drafting and his poor roster construction has caught up with the fact that he can't, it's caught up with his brilliant coaching. The roster isn't good enough for him to coach up. Especially now with Matt Judon probably out for the year and Christian Gonzalez out long term. Going into this season, I said over and over that the Patriots' last 4 or 5 years can be described very simply as aggressively mediocre. Like their upside was getting blown the fuck out by Buffalo in the fucking first round of the playoffs. Just completely embarrassing. It's just not up to the standard of the New England Patriots, man. And you like this roster, man. The skill position just isn't up to stuff. It's a point blank. It's a bottom 5 wide receiver group in the league. Like at one point, Devontae Parker was a really good receiver. He's just fine now. Kendrick Bourne is good, but like on a really good team, he might be a number 3 receiver, let alone a number 2. And like your best player offensively, like or at least one of the guys with the most upside at receiver is Demario Douglas, and he can't get on the field because Bill hates rookies. So, like, what are we even doing here? We genuinely just can't get away with playing nobodies. We You need to play the best players on the field, and like Bill has always been a rigid guy. He's always been the type of guy to where like if players aren't living up to his standard, unless they're a random veteran. For example, Demario Douglas fumbled, I believe, week 1 and was benched for the rest of the game. Meanwhile, last year at multiple points, like Damian Harris fumbled and like fucking still was getting touches over Ramondre Stevens. So he's very choosy about who he's putting over in terms of like in his lens. But like the Patriots, like people have been talking about Mac Jones, and like there's been this discourse on Patriots Twitter about like, hey, it's not Mac Jones's fault. The offensive personnel is bad, which is true. The offensive personnel is bad. What the people are also not realizing is that Mac Jones also isn't that good either. Like Mac Jones, like upside is like a top 15 quarterback in the league right now. Of course, like he could be serviceable if you surrounded him with the requisite weapons. He could be fine. He's a quarterback who, like, if you put the right weapons around you, will not lose you games, but he's not going to go out of his way and win games for you. Like, they don't have a difference maker at quarterback, and it shows. The offensive line hasn't been good enough either. Weapons aren't good enough. Genuinely, like, I think the best thing for this New England Patriots team is to completely tear it down and fucking tank. Like, they need high-end talent. The way to get high-end talent is by fucking sucking, and sucking really bad. And for all those saying, like, wow, you know, for those saying, like, wow, fucking, you're calling for a team to lose. Like, yes, losing with the idea of building towards a better future is the right thing to do when the other side of the coin is being completely and thoroughly mediocre indefinitely. This team has no prospects. They're simply not good enough to win. It's not going, guys, it's not going to happen. They're not going to go on some miracle Super Bowl run. They're not disciplined enough. The offensive line isn't good enough. The weapons stink. And hey, now their best two players, arguably on defense, both hurt, potentially out for extremely long stretches of the season. So, I mean, if the Patriots had any sense of foresight, had any sense of like working towards a better future, they would tank. This might not be popular on fucking Pat's Twitter. I genuinely don't give a shit, guys. I implore you to trust the information that your eyes are giving you. This team has not been good enough for 5 years. Enough is enough. And if Bill doesn't want to subscribe to a rebuild, move on. Fire him. Most head coaches, any coach that isn't named Bill Belichick is fired last year after you put Matt Patricia as your offensive coordinator, which was a move that was made out of such unrequited ego that like you could it's insane that Bill could even get a word out with how far his head was up his own ass. It's insane. Like you're that high off your own supply that you think that literally any one of your fucking lackeys can come in and be an offensive coordinator. Fucking yeah, Matt Patricia, like you're a defensive coordinator who really wasn't even that great of a defensive coordinator. Fucking, I remember the Super Bowl against the Eagles. I imagine most of you do too. Yeah, let's have him come run the offense. And then it was seen as a big revelation when Bill brought in, instead of that lackey, he brought in a different fucking lackey by going into the offseason and be like, yeah, I'm going to bring in Bill O'Brien, whose only like qualification is that like he's fucking an okay offensive play caller. He's fine. It's a massive step up from Patricia, but he's still like just fine. You're not doing what the smart teams do. You're not going to find the young, innovative mind because you can't have outside ideas in the New England Patriots now. No, it's Bill's way or you're fucking stupid. So, like, the Pats genuinely the last 5 years, man, they've just driven me insane. It's just an exercise in everything that they once hated. Like Bill, like making excuses in front of the media, fucking, undisciplined, bad offensive line play. Like Brady had the right idea. He realized what a lot of people still haven't, in that Bill the GM is washed. I still think Bill the coach is pretty good, but Bill the GM, like, fine, you draft some good defensive players. We're in an era where there are like 6 or 7 great receivers every single draft, and we have not managed to find a single fucking one of them. Not one. And yeah, offense is more important than defense in the modern era, man. It just is. You're not going to see a fucking 2000 Ravens anymore, dude. It's just simply not going to happen. When you look at the last 5 Super Bowl winners and you look at who their quarterbacks were throwing to, like that, it tells the entire story. Like Pat Mahomes, like fucking is like the only like exception, but even still, he had Travis Kelce, and like besides that point, he's the best quarterback on planet Earth. Like fucking, that's like it's the same as like when Brady was at the peak of his powers, throwing to fucking Edelman, Hogan, and Amendola. Like if your one exception is the dude who's literally head and shoulders the best quarterback on planet Earth, like what Matt Stafford like throwing to Cooper Kupp, fucking Brady when he won his Super Bowl throwing to Evans and Godwin and AB that season. It's just Mahomes with his first one throwing to fucking Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce. We live in an era where weapons are actually important. It used to be you can get away with just having a really good defense and a ho-hum offense. The rules are too skewed in the offense's favor nowadays. Like, you need good weapons. You simply you need them. Because what happens, especially like with the Patriots, is that you can, with the good defense, you can beat bad teams. You can beat inept teams. So you're going to beat the Jets. You're going to beat a team like the Saints this next week. They're probably going to beat the Saints because they're poorly coached and like they don't have a great structure. They're a bad team. So Bill will be able to take advantage of that. But what happens is you run into real teams. You run into Buffalo. You run into Kansas City. You run into a team with an actual fucking quarterback. You run into Dallas this last week, and there's nothing they can do. They have more talent than you. They have a better quarterback than you. Bill's coaching cannot catch up with that disparity. So you're just going to lose. I believe the Patriots haven't beaten a playoff caliber team since they beat Buffalo in a fucking windstorm. Like, guys, they're not good enough. They just simply are not good enough. And like, I understand like Pat fans, like they want to be like, in Bill we trust. Guys, it's dead. It's over. It's not, we're out of that era. The dynasty ended the second Brady left. The Patriot way died the second Brady left. It's just time to move on. It's time to move on to a new era. Like, either tell Bill to rescind his GM powers, and if he doesn't want to do that, fucking fire him. It's just that simple. You're not going to win anymore with him, man. He doesn't have his quarterback, and he doesn't seem like he has the ability to find the one he needs. We're done with him. He can't draft offensively. He's terrible at drafting skill positions. He can't draft a fucking wide receiver. And Mac Jones looks like fucking, he drafted a ho-hum quarterback. Fine. That's pretty much all my piece on them. Because if I keep going, it's all gonna come around to I just think they're mediocre. They're just a mid. And this year, because of the injuries, I think they're gonna be a bit less than mediocre. I think they're like on the higher end of bad teams. Right now, like they could be like easily like a 7 or 8 win team. But if things go even worse, they could be a 6 or 5 win team. Like they're not good enough. It'll be nice that they get a higher up pick. Hopefully they use that pick to draft like a Shedeur Sanders or something like that, or pick one of the, because this next quarterback class is looking to be great. So hey, maybe they figure it out and they draft their guy. I can at least only hope for that. Moving on to a team that I mentioned in my fucking rant is the Buffalo Bills. Especially coming off a week where Kansas City had just a really bad game against the Jets, but they still won because like people like will say like the refs bailed them out, and like they did get some favorable calls, but the Chiefs did have that, like, that bullshit safety against them, and was it some other fucking penalty early in the game that extended a drive for them. So like I don't think officials are biased. I just think they're stupid. I just think they're bad at their job most of the time. And like so the Chiefs win this game, but it's ugly, and the Bills have looked amazing, and they blew out. They ran the Dolphins out of their building, and the question has come out is like, are the Bills the dominant force in the AFC right now? And if you look just based on their play recently and like how Kansas City hasn't looked too impressive, I get why people would say yes. Personally, I think the Chiefs are going to figure it out and be fine. Like, yeah, uh, Mahomes is throwing to a bunch of bums and Travis Kelce, but he was also doing that last year, and Mahomes is the best player on planet Earth. And I just have no faith in the Bills actually doing things when the lights are the brightest. I really don't. Like, Josh Allen's really good. I have faith that like they'll beat the shit out of the Patriots, but that it really isn't saying much nowadays. Like, at the end of the day, like when it comes down to it, like the Kansas City has a pretty good defense. The Bills have a pretty good defense. The Bills have better weapons, but the Chiefs have Patrick Mahomes. Like, I'll take Patrick Mahomes any day of the week in the playoffs over fucking Josh Allen. I'll take Patrick Mahomes pretty much over every single quarterback in the AFC, like in the playoffs. It's right now it's pretty much Mahomes' league. He's in his Brady run right now, effectively, where like he's just the dominant guy in the AFC. And what's scary about that is he's still so young. He's like 26, is he not? 26, 27? Like, fuck. I'll look it up real quick. Like, Mahomes, it's insane how good he's 28. So like effectively on the conservative end, there's like 10 years left of his dominance. And if he wants to play forever like Brady did, there's like 20 years, or so there's like fucking, 13 or 14 years left more of his dominance. Like, there's no reason every year like why people shouldn't think the Bills are sorry, that the Chiefs are the fucking team to beat. The Chiefs effectively are just on the top of the mountain, and I will be convinced that they are not the team on the top of the mountain when they are actually beaten in a meaningful game in the playoffs. Like, because it was crazy, like when the Bengals did it a couple years ago. It genuinely shocked me, and I do believe in Joe Burrow, and I'll talk about him in a bit because what the Bengals are doing with him is just tragedy. But man, I just got to say, like, I get it. People want to see new teams succeed, and the AFC is pretty good this year. And like maybe the Chiefs' weapons will come around to bite them because it's literally just Travis Kelce. It's Travis Kelce and a bunch of frauds they picked off the street. So maybe it'll come back to bite them. I doubt it, because Mahomes is really good and they have a great defense. So Bills fans, they can take their victory laps. Personally, as a Patriot fan, I will be eagerly awaiting your rude awakening in the playoffs when you eventually don't do anything yet again. I actually will move on to Joe Burrow next, though, because what the Bengals are doing with Joe Burrow should be considered malpractice. Like they're down to 1-3 now. They lose to the Titans embarrassingly. Like the game was not even close. Joe Burrow statistically has been one of the worst quarterbacks in the league. And like the question begs to differ, why did they not just bench him like weeks 1 and 2? Why are you not letting him heal? Like you're begging him to get hurt. He's not good enough right now. You can't throw him out there. It's only heroic. Guys playing through injury is only seen as heroic if they're actually playing well through injury. If you're playing through injury and it's genuinely impeding your ability to play, then you're being a detriment. You got to sit. I know Joe, like he's a tough guy. He's a quarterback. He just took all this money. He probably doesn't want to feel like he's letting his team down by not playing, as opposed to a certain other AFC North quarterback that I will talk about later on. But dude, like Jamar Chase is getting frustrated. The Bengals offense is getting frustrated. And Zach Taylor, like to me, isn't a good enough coach to make up for any faults that Joe might have during while he's injured. Like to me, like the Bengals, you're making a massive mistake here. Like you should have sat him weeks ago. And it's getting to the point now where like you actually do need him to play to have at least somewhat of a shot, because you're digging yourself in a increasingly larger hole. But you're playing the Cardinals next week. The Cardinals have been feisty, but man, like if Burrow needs that week to heal his calf, sit him. Like if he's not healthy come playoff time, you don't have a chance anyway. So fucking let him heal. Just let him heal. It's baffling, man. They're acting so completely irresponsibly. This dude's is your franchise. He's the future of your franchise. If you let him get hurt, you're completely and utterly fucked. Point blank. There's no chance. So yeah, man. I mean, with the Bengals, I hope they pull their head out of their ass, because they're a team that they're one of the few teams I think have a chance of standing up to Kansas City. I think them and the Bills do have a chance, but I just think KC's a better option. But man, you got to let Joe Burrow heal here. Sticking with AFC North quarterbacks, I want to talk about the fact that Deshaun Watson, noted deviant, noted degenerate Deshaun Watson, turns out not a very high character guy. Turns out not a very good leader. Who could have seen this coming? The Browns, this is looking like one of the worst contracts ever given. This could track to be the worst contract ever given in the history of professional football. Basically, what happened is the Browns doctors cleared Deshaun Watson to play. He has apparently a nagging little shoulder injury. Their doctors said he was good to go, and Deshaun Watson said, no, I'm not going to play. This is he had his best game of the year last week, and all of a sudden, he's just not good enough to play. He's like, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to play. And this is one of those things where he's like the anti-Joe Burrow here, where this is a guy who should probably be playing. This is a guy you're making that much money, and you're probably still good enough to go, and you're just refusing to play because Deshaun Watson literally just effectively got the bag and said, I am done. It's clear he does not give a single fuck anymore, man. He got his money, and he just does not give a shit about actually putting an effort on the field. He doesn't care about putting out a good performance on the field. He's going to take every opportunity to miss a game, and when he's on the field, you're getting his fucking D game. This is a dude who is going to refuse to play up to his talent anymore because he just could not give a single shit less. And listen, there's been AFC North quarterbacks in the past who had a dodgy record, who got the bag and still at least attempted to be a leader and play well for their team. His name was Big Ben Roethlisberger, who had awful charges against him. Everyone looked at him as a scumbag for the rest of his career for the most part, but he still went out there and played. Deshaun Watson is taking the other end, where it's everyone sees me as this fucking degenerate, which he is. It's not a fucking perceived thing. He is a degenerate. And he's like, I'm going to get my money, and I'm done here. I've seen enough. Job's done. And I feel sick for Browns fans because they thought they were going to get their quarterback, and they've been defending this guy who is, again, a serial loser, a serial creep, and he's not even good. You don't even get the Steelers fan aspect where they were defending Ben Roethlisberger, and he was actually still a good quarterback. No, you're defending a guy who's a creep, a degenerate, and he sucks at football. So, maybe, figure out that you need to start moving off of him, maybe stop defending Deshaun Watson. He genuinely just does not deserve it in the slightest bit. Switching gears to the NFC, like I just wanted to talk really quick about the Chicago Bears because I just think they're a very funny football team. The Chicago Bears as a franchise, they've never had a good quarterback ever. Their best quarterback in their franchise's history is Jay Cutler. Like that is a extremely funny statement. And if your counterpoint to that is actually their best quarterback is Jim McMahon, you're actually just making my point even further because he wasn't good either. Like the Chicago Bears, this team, I cannot imagine being a Bears fan. They provide you nothing but agony for just decades. And like they think they get their guy Justin Fields, and he's been terrible this year. They got him DJ Moore, and like for the most part, he's been worse. He had a great game where he still threw a game-losing touchdown right at the end of the game. And like he put up points and he put up yards against a team that just gave up 70 the week prior, but it was still a good game. But for the most part this year, he's looked clueless. And part of that might have to do with the fact that they Matt Eberflus is their head coach. I believe he has a defensive background. I don't know why any team in the NFL would hire a guy with a defensive background anymore. Like routinely it has been shown, if you have a young quarterback, what you need to do is get him a young offensive coach. Like get him the guy to work with. Even like the veteran quarterbacks benefit from this. Like when Kevin O'Connell came in for Kirk Cousins, like and helping him out being smart. It's just fucking you need to hire offense nowadays. The league has leaned to offense. People need to stop acting like the league isn't like 60 to 70% offensive leaning nowadays. And it's defenses have finally adjusted in that like teams aren't just like defending like their wet paper bags anymore. But when it comes down to it, like when the best teams play each other, take the Bills and Dolphins for example. Both teams have at least the Dolphins have a half decent defense. The Bills have a very good defense. Like even in the game where the Bills defense had a good game, like the Dolphins scored 20. Like back in the day, like when a defense like really grinded a team down and like they couldn't do anything, that's 10-13. Or like the Patriots defense for years, or for these last few years, they've had a good defense the entire year until they run into a team with a good quarterback like Josh Allen, and then he puts up 40 on you in the playoffs, and you don't even look like you belong on the same field as them. Like when push comes to shove, right now it's an offense-driven league. Like you should be aiming for an offensive coach to help out your young and your veteran quarterbacks. You need to be creative. Creativity is always a good thing. So yeah, man. I mean, just the Bears are very funny to me. Luckily, like because they have their pick and the Panthers pick, they have a very real chance of drafting both Caleb Williams and Marvin Harrison Jr. So hey, Bears fans, your suffering might be almost over. Like that's the good news about it. All right, I'm gonna shift over some MLB. Wild card series that we're going on, and I have been thoroughly enjoying it because the Toronto Blue Jays have done the impossible. They lose their wild card series against the fucking actual Minnesota Twins. My best friend is a Twins fan. The last time the Minnesota Twins won a playoff game, let alone a playoff series, David Ortiz was still on the team. And I just gotta say, it couldn't happen to a better fan base because Blue Jays fans are very the worst. They fucking all year I've heard chirping at them. Them and Rays fans, chirping Red Sox fans, all that chirping to win as many games as we did in the playoffs this year. Fucking sucks to suck. My God. How's the movie going? Man, on a scale from The Room to the first Suicide Squad movie, how good is the movie? Because, man, I gotta say, I'm enjoying it. It's really good. I am loving it. Fucking, it is like a comedy in all the best aspects. The best type of terrible movie that makes you laugh. I I get nothing but joy out of this. Rays fans too. You couldn't even get 20,000 fans in your ballpark. Eat shit. We didn't want to drive over the bridge. You couldn't drive over a bridge to see your fucking team in the playoffs. Fucking wah. Holy shit, man. Just terrible. Both of you guys, I'm laughing. Rays fans, it turns out that yes, indeed, you do need to spend more than 3 nickels and 2 dimes to build a team that will actually win something. So maybe next time, tell your owners to stop being such cheap pieces of shit, or tell them to sell the team. The Rays are never going to win with their model. They'll consistently win in the regular season. The regular season is not the playoffs. It's not going to happen, man. You need to spend some level of money. So happy. I'm so happy about that. In other news, like in the wild card series, the Brewers lose both their games as well, and they get swept. And I'm just tired of the Brewers, man. Like, this is another unserious team. It's an unserious team that refuses to spend money. Fucking, like, you had all this abundance of pitching talent. And even if you've spent like a decent mid-level team, you could be a World Series contender. But because you are the way you are, where like you're literally shortchanging Corbin Burns in arbitration, you're pathetic. Fucking, you deserve to be losers forever. Fucking spend a bit of money, you miserly frauds. Your penance for this is trading Corbin Burns to the Red Sox. Fucking, it's time. Give us fucking Corbin Burns. Clearly, you aren't going to use him for the purposes that he needs. Fucking tired of you, man. So tired of the Brewers. Good for the Diamondbacks. I'm happy for them. That's a young team that needs this playoff experience. I don't think they have the guns to make it deep, but good for you, man. Good for D-backs fans. Good for Twins fans also earlier. I'm happy for you. The Twins are actually built way better than any of their other previous teams to win in the playoffs, just because their pitching and bullpen is good. Their problem is they can't score, which is so weird to say about Twins teams. But like, hey, man, like, you're going against the Astros. The Astros are obviously monsters in October, and but they're wounded. Like, they're down a few arms pitching, and they've pretty much been winning just on the strength of their great offense. So like, the Twins might be sneaky here. Like, I think they might make this a tough series. I still think the Astros are going to pull it out, because like, I just have faith that the Astros are going to pull things out in the playoffs until I'm proven otherwise. But the Twins have a real shot here, like, through the strength of their pitching, to get this done. So like, that's a series to watch out for. And like, I'm excited for them, man. I'm excited for Twins fans. Like, that ballpark was absolutely rocking. Fantastic from them. Great ballpark environment. Very unlike the Rays. Again, couldn't get 20,000 fans into your stadium. The fuck is wrong with you? As far as other teams that won, the Phillies, they advance. I'm very scared that the Phillies are going to do it again with this like Dave Dombrowski magic. Like, because that dude knows how to build teams that compete hard in the postseason. And that team can rake. The back end of their bullpen's kind of yikes at parts, but also they're fucking pretty good starting rotation. Like, the Phillies have the tools to be able to go far. We've seen them do it last year, and they might do it again. I don't know if anyone can stop the buzzsaw of the Braves, though, man. The Braves are just so talented, and they might fuck it up, because it's baseball, and you really never know with baseball. You really don't. All it takes is one bad week. But like, I think the Braves are the head and shoulders the best team out of the National League. But man, like, you got to watch out for the Phillies, man. They are not a team to be trifled with, not even the slightest. But yeah, man, I briefly mentioned the Rays, but the Rangers completely bored over them in those 2 wild card games. And the Rangers are an interesting team, man. They're really good. They have good starting pitching, but the bullpen scares me. They're a team like, fucking, if they just had a few guys in the back end of the bullpen who could really figure it out, I think they could go deep. But I really think the back end of their bullpen is going to hinder them. I love their offense. I think Corey Seager, phenomenal year. Marcus Semien, great player. Josh Jung, amazing rookie year. But that back of the bullpen is going to come back to bite them. It always does. The American League is very weird this year, in that a lot of the playoff teams this year, their bullpens are either injured, burnt out, or just thin. Like, it's the same like deal with the Orioles, a team that fucking amazing vibes the entire year. Uh, Steamrolled over most of their guys for most of their opponents the entire year. But hey, their closer got Tommy John, best closer in baseball, out for the year. It's very wide open, and it's a super exciting time to be a baseball fan. Seeking into that, I want to briefly mention that baseball's rule change effort was a overwhelming success, gigantic success. Every single one of the traditionalist bozos was proven hilariously wrong, and it makes me extremely happy. MLB drew in 70 million new fans this year, their biggest total in the last 70 years. Baseball attendance is up 9.6%, the highest since baseball's expansion effort in 1993. I understand that people want to shit on Rob Manfred because of the Astros situation, and he didn't handle it the best, obviously. And he called the World Series trophy up a hunk of metal, which was extremely fucking, asinine and dumb. But man, you really gotta give him credit here, man. Like, he put these rule changes forward, and it made the game better. All of the worst aspects of baseball have been removed, and it's amazing. I can watch a baseball game and fucking just enjoy what's going on. Like, I don't have to sit and watch fucking a pitcher scratch his taint and then fucking have a batter, signal to get out of the box so he can rub his balls for a bit, man. It's amazing. It makes me so unbelievably happy. And fucking, baseball's in such a good spot. And I'm very happy that it's growing exponentially again, because it is an amazing sport and it deserves to be higher up. Fucking, I just don't want to see a world where fucking the football and basketball just continue to lap baseball over everything. So yeah, man, props to Rob Manfred. You did good with the rule changes. Like, even though like you did a bunch of other annoying shit that makes fucking people angry, you did a good job in terms of the rule changes that made the sport much, much better. I'm gonna move on to some hockey real quick. Just some general stuff, really. Hockey season is literally right around the corner. And I understand that a lot of people, like, they just kind of look at hockey and they kind of scoff. They think like fucking like, oh, it's dumb ice soccer. I'm not going to give it a chance. I really do implore people to give hockey a chance. Hockey is a phenomenal sport, man. Hockey is fucking it has all like the finesse of basketball with the grittiness of football. And it's such an enjoyable time. The playoffs are phenomenal. And like, I really think people like should give more sports a chance, because like, when you love sports, when you really think about why you watch sports, it comes down to the spirit of competition. And I think that a lot of people deprive themselves of amazing sports because like they just fucking like they turn their nose up at it and like, oh, my sport is better. I guarantee you, if you love one sport, you love multiple sports. Like, that's at least that's what I realized, man. Because like, I'm a fucking all rounder. I love baseball, I love football, I love hockey, I love basketball, I love soccer. Like fucking, I'll watch like when the Olympics are on. I'd happily watch the Olympics. I'm a fucking sports junkie. Like, I always implore people like to always expand your horizons in terms of sports, because it's worth getting into. It's worth having another thing invested in. Fucking, I never thought that like I'd be able to recapture like the passion for a sport like by getting into a new sport until I got into hockey. And now like when fucking I'm like watching the Leafs in the postseason, I'm fucking as fucking amped as I am like when I watch like the Red Sox or when I watch the Patriots in the postseason. It's just nice, man. It's just so it's good to have more things to be passionate about. 99% of the time as a person, it's always better when you're passionate about something and you keep finding things that give you passion. Like, it's part of the best part of the human experience. So I implore people to give hockey a go. It's phenomenal. Incredible sport. Like, the worst thing about hockey is that it's fucking the people who run it are inept, but the actual sport itself is just so enjoyable. It's phenomenal. And for my last little topic here, I'm going to talk about the NBA. I'm going to talk about how Milwaukee and Boston right now are in a very interesting arms race in the Eastern Conference, because like Milwaukee, they go out and they trade for Damian Lillard, and it's like, okay, the Bucks are the team to beat. There's no one that that like they're a tier above everyone else. There are other teams that are good that could like maybe give them a run, but barring injury, the Bucks are going to win. And part of that is that they shipped out Drew Holiday, and the Celtics said, "Oh, you don't want him? Oh, we'll take him." So fucking now the Celtics gear up. They trade away Robert Williams, and they get Drew Holiday. They traded away other pieces as well, but Robert Williams was the biggest piece of that trade. And it's just interesting, man. It's so cool to see like uh a conference where there are two teams that are clearly better than every other team in the conference, and they are going to be on a speeding collision to face each other in the Eastern Conference Final. I can almost guarantee, like, barring insane injury, these two are going to be the teams that meet up in the conference final. And it's going to be extremely interesting because Boston in recent years has had Milwaukee's number, but at the same time, like, they're going to play a lot differently with Dame. He's going to change everything about how they play. He's going to stretch out the floor. He's going to give them a bunch of range that they didn't have, and they're still excellent defensively. Even with Dame not being the best defender, you still have, Giannis and his fucking crew. Fucking the Celtics, they're not slouches defensively either, and they can score. And with Drew Holiday, they get another guy who can handle the ball late in games, so that you don't have Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum fumbling around and having 80 turnovers in the fucking playoffs. God, last year I could strangle those two watching those games late in the year. So yeah, man. I mean, the NBA. A lot of times in the regular season, I'm a bit checked out, but I'll definitely be paying a big attention to the Celtics and the Bucks because it very much interests me. These two teams are very clearly the cream of the crop in the East, and I'm super, super excited to see where that leads them. Thank you so much for listening to episode 2 of Endless Ranting. I'm going to have at least one of these out a week from now on. Now I have a lot more time since I left the Pesky Report and since I left out a bunch of other obligations. So I'm going to be putting a lot of time into this. I'm going to be posting stuff on my YouTube channel, which is just Hogdale. And man, for anyone who stuck around, listened to this entire thing, I appreciate you, love you. And, don't be afraid to hit me up on Twitter at Hogdale_, man. Have yourselves a beautiful day, and I'll see you next time.